alien fleet moved like a storm across the stars. Their ships were massive, strong, and filled with confidence. For them, the war was already decided. Humans were weak, small, and divided. The aliens had conquered dozens of worlds before, and they believed Earth would be no different. Admiral Koresh of the Vaughn Empire stood on his flagship's bridge, staring at the blue glow of Earth on the holomap. His officers reported that most human fleets had already been destroyed or forced to retreat. Small pockets of resistance still existed, but they were running out of time. "The humans cannot fight much longer," said one of the officers. "Their ships are outdated. Their colonies are scattered. Victory is only days away." Koresh allowed himself a smile. For the Vaughn, war was not just conquest, it was a way to prove dominance. They had chosen to make an example of Earth. The humans would serve as a warning to all other species. Never defy the Empire, but then something unusual happened. The humans sent a message. It was not a plea for peace. It was not surrender. It was not begging for mercy. Instead, the broadcast was sent across every channel, directly into the command systems of the Vaughn fleet. A voice, calm but cold, filled the bridge. "This is human command. You were given a choice. You chose war. Now let us show you how it's done." The bridge went silent. Every officer froze. Koresh's smile vanished. The message was short, only one sentence, but it carried something strange, something the aliens had not felt before. Confidence. "Are they threatening us?" one officer asked in disbelief. Koresh narrowed his eyes. "No, they are trying to scare us. Empty words. Humans cannot win." But deep inside, even he felt a small shadow of doubt. The Vaughn Empire knew human ships were smaller and slower. They knew humans had less advanced weapons, and yet the humans had survived far longer than expected. Their fleets had not broken completely. Their colonies had not fully fallen. Koresh pushed the thought aside. "Prepare the next assault. We will crush their last defenses." Across the galaxy, however, strange reports began to appear. Alien patrols were disappearing. Small fleets sent to chase human survivors never returned. Supply lines were being attacked by unknown forces. The Vaughn officers assumed it was chaos, humans running like rats in the dark. But still, the pattern felt wrong. On Earth, the mood was completely different. Inside the underground bunkers of human command, the last generals of Earth sat around a dimly lit table. Their faces were tired, but their eyes were sharp. They had been underestimated since the first shot of the war. Now their real plan was beginning. General Harris leaned forward. "They think we are weak. They think this war is theirs already. That is their mistake." Another officer smiled grimly. "And we will make them pay for it." The message that had been sent to the Vaughn fleet was not just words. It was a signal. Across hidden colonies, secret stations, and cloaked fleets, the humans began to move. For months, maybe even years, they had been preparing in silence. Earth's people had always been survivors. History was full of wars, invasions, and battles where they had been outnumbered, but never broken. And this war would be no different. Back on the alien flagship, Admiral Koresh tried to shake away his unease. He ordered the attack to begin. Vaughn fleets closed in on human space. Entire worlds burned, and yet something felt wrong. The humans were too quiet, too calm. One officer reported nervously, "Admiral, we detected movement near the outer colonies." But before we could scan, the ships vanished. Vanished, Koresh snapped. "No ship just vanishes. Find them!" But more reports came in. Patrols lost contact. Drones sent to scout returned with nothing. And always, just before the silence, there was that same human broadcast echoing on the comms. "You chose war. Now let us show you how it's done." The Vaughn crew felt something they had never felt before in war. Fear. For the first time, they wondered if the humans had been hiding their strength all along. Koresh stood still, his claws tightening around the edge of the console. He remembered every other species the Vaughn had crushed, how they had begged for mercy before the end. But humans were not begging, they were warning. A warning that felt more dangerous than any weapon. The Admiral turned toward the stars, watching the silent darkness where the human fleets were supposed to be destroyed. Yet, in that same darkness, shadows moved. Invisible, waiting, and in that moment, he realized the real war was only just beginning. The war entered a strange stage. The Vaughn Empire had expected a fast victory. They had crushed human fleets in open battle, destroyed colonies, and left burning ruins across the stars. By all logic, the humans should have been broken. Yet the war was not ending. Something invisible was happening. Patrol ships went missing. Supply lines were cut. Outposts went dark. At first, the Vaughn believed it was nothing, just scattered survivors fighting with desperation. But as the weeks passed, the pattern grew impossible to ignore. Admiral Koresh stood over the hollow map, red lines cutting across space. This is not chance. Someone is attacking us with purpose. Someone is planning these strikes. His officers exchanged uneasy glances. But the humans, their fleets are gone. We destroyed them. Koresh's claws tapped against the table. Then explain this. Every convoy attacked in perfect silence. Every fleet ambushed without warning. Not one human ship caught in retreat. Not one survivor left behind. Tell me how a broken enemy does this. No one answered. Far away, hidden in the darkness of space, the humans were moving. A small fleet of cloaked ships drifted silently near an asteroid belt. Their engines were cold, their lights dimmed. To alien scanners they were nothing but rocks. Inside one of the ships, Captain Elena Torres studied her crew with calm determination. The Vaughn are arrogant, she said softly. They think we are running. They think we are weak. That is our advantage, her crew nodded. They knew the plan. The humans had learned from history. Direct battles were suicide against the powerful Vaughn. Instead, they would bleed them slowly, strike from the shadows, and vanish before the enemy could strike back. Target confirmed. The weapons officer whispered. Supply convoy, 6 ships escorted by 2 cruisers. Torres gave a single command. Begin. From the black silence, human warships came alive. Missiles fired, lasers cut across the convoy, and within seconds the alien cruisers were torn apart. Before reinforcements could arrive, the humans disappeared into the void, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. Another strike. Another victory, and not a single human ship lost. The Vaughn officers grew restless. This is impossible, one commander growled. They appear from nowhere and vanish like smoke. It's as if the humans are ghosts. Admiral Koresh did not like the word, but even he could not deny the truth. The humans were not fighting a normal war. They had turned space itself into a hunting ground. In mess halls and barracks, alien soldiers whispered rumors. They spoke of invisible fleets. They spoke of humans striking from shadows, leaving no survivors. Some claimed humans had found new technology. Others said humans had made a pact with darkness itself. Fear spread faster than fire. On Earth, Human Command listened to the intercepted alien transmissions with grim satisfaction. General Harris stood in front of the main screen, arms crossed. They are beginning to fear us, he said. Good, let them fear. An officer asked carefully, but how long can we keep this up? Their empire is massive. They can afford losses. Harris's eyes narrowed. We are not trying to outlast them. We are trying to break them, piece by piece, ship by ship, until they understand the mistake they made. The message was always the same. Every time the humans struck, they left a signal on the comms, a voice echoing in the silence. You chose war. Now, let us show you how it's done. It was not just a threat anymore. It was a promise. One night in the depths of space, Admiral Koresh's fleet set a trap. They leaked false coordinates, hoping the humans would attack. The Vaughn ships hid among the stars, waiting. Hours passed. Silence. And then, without warning, the trap turned against them. Human ships struck from behind, destroying fuel depots and cutting engines before the Vaughn even fired a shot. By the time the Admiral realized what had happened, half his fleet was burning. The humans had known the trap. Somehow, they had been watching. Koresh roared in frustration. Enough. They cannot be everywhere at once. They cannot. But deep down, he was no longer sure. Weeks turned into months. The Vaughn Empire, once proud and certain, was bleeding slowly. Not from great battles, but from endless cuts. Every patrol feared the darkness. Every ship wondered if today would be the day the shadows came. The aliens still had greater numbers, still had stronger weapons, but numbers and strength meant nothing if the enemy refused to fight by their rules. For the first time in centuries, The Vaughn realized they might not understand war at all. Back on Earth, General Harris watched the growing map of enemy losses. His voice was calm, but inside he carried the weight of every decision. They thought we were finished. They thought we would beg. Instead, we showed them patience. We showed them silence. And soon we will show them what humans are truly capable of. The screen flickered with the words of human command. The same message sent again and again into the hearts of the enemy. You chose war. Now let us show you how it's done. And in the endless dark of space, the shadows of humanity moved once more. The hunt had only begun. The Vaughn Empire was bleeding, not from one great battle, but from 1,000 cuts. Every week, more patrols went missing. Convoys vanished without a trace. Stations that had stood for decades were found silent, their crews gone, their systems dead. It was as if an invisible enemy haunted the stars, and everywhere, the same echo followed. You chose war. Now let us show you how it's done. The words had become a nightmare. Soldiers whispered them in their sleep. Captains heard them before their ships burned. Admirals cursed them, but the message kept coming, cold, calm, and unshakable. Admiral Koresh sat in the war chamber of his flagship, staring at the red losses on the star map. Entire sections of supply routes were gone. Fleets meant to hunt humans had disappeared instead. This is madness, growled one of his officers. They do not fight. They do not defend. They only strike and vanish. This is not war, another officer, younger and more shaken, whispered. No, this is hunting. The word spread like poison. Hunting. Humans were no longer seen as weak defenders. They were predators waiting in the dark. Koresh slammed his fist against the console. We are the hunters. We are the Empire. The humans are prey. But even he felt the lie in his own words. Far away, Captain Elena Torres watched her fleet drift silently behind the shadow of a gas giant. Their ships floated without light, invisible to scanners. Her crew waited in tense silence. The target was a massive Vaughn carrier group. Strong, well-guarded, and confident, Torres's eyes were sharp. They think they are safe here. They think humans will not dare. Her second-in-command grinned. Then let's teach them what humans dare to do. Orders were given in whispers. Engines hummed to life with barely a sound. Missiles armed, cloaked fighters deployed, and in a sudden flash, the darkness came alive. Human ships struck like blades in the night. Explosions lit the black void. Within minutes, the great Vaughn carrier group was reduced to fire and wreckage. By the time reinforcements arrived, there was nothing left to fight. And again, across the Vaughn channels, the same voice played, "Since you chose war, let us show you how it's done." The fear spread deeper. In alien barracks, soldiers began to refuse assignments. Some captains delayed patrols, faking mechanical problems. Rumors grew wilder each day. Stories of humans using invisible ships, ships that passed through solid matter, ships crewed by shadows instead of men. No one knew what was real. No one cared. All they knew was this: wherever the humans were, someone would die. On Earth, General Harris and the human command studied the reports. They saw fear growing like a sickness inside the Empire. "We don't need to match their numbers," Harris said calmly. "We don't need to match their firepower. All we need is time. Fear will do the rest." Another officer chuckled grimly. "The Vaughn believe they are hunters, but they never hunted like humans. We are the oldest hunters of all." Indeed, humanity's history was written in survival. From forests to deserts, from oceans to mountains, humans had hunted and adapted for thousands of years. Now they were taking that same instinct into the stars. Admiral Koresh tried to regain control. He doubled the patrols, ordered tighter defenses, and punished captains who showed hesitation. But the more he tried, the more failures appeared. A fuel station destroyed. A scout fleet gone silent. A communication hub hacked with a single mocking broadcast. "You chose war. Now let us show you how it's done." Every loss was small compared to the Empire's size, but together they were becoming a wound too deep to ignore. Finally, Koresh gathered his admirals in the war chamber. "We are losing control," he admitted bitterly. "These are not scattered survivors. This is organized, coordinated. They are using tactics we have never seen. One admiral's voice trembled. "Admiral, what if we have underestimated them? What if they planned this from the start?" Koresh fell silent. He remembered that first message, the calm voice of human command, the confidence it was possible, terribly possible. Meanwhile, Captain Torres and her fleet were already preparing for the next strike. She stood at the window of her ship watching the stars. "The Vorn still think this is war," she said softly. "But we know better. This is the hunt, and the hunters always win." Her crew smiled, quiet and sharp. They were no longer fighting for survival. They were teaching a lesson the galaxy would never forget, and so the whispers grew. Humans were not prey. They were not weak. They were silent hunters, moving unseen, striking without mercy. And the Empire, vast and powerful, was beginning to realize that for the first time in its history, it was being hunted. The Vorn Empire was restless. For months their fleets had hunted shadows. Every time they thought they had trapped the humans, the trap broke against them. Convoys kept burning, patrols kept vanishing, and stations kept falling silent. The mighty empire was losing blood, piece by piece, to an enemy they thought already dead. Admiral Koresh felt the pressure crushing him. His empire demanded results. His commanders demanded answers. And still the humans moved unseen. At last, he sent spies, agents skilled in infiltration, to discover the truth. One of those spies returned with a discovery so shocking that even Koresh struggled to believe it. The humans had not been fighting with their last strength. They had been hiding their true power, deep in silent colonies, hidden far from the front lines. Humanity had built something the Vorn never expected, a war machine. Secret shipyards carved into asteroids, invisible factories hidden under gas giant storms, underground bunkers on dead moons. For years, while the Vorn believed humanity weak, they had been building in silence, and now their hidden industry had come alive. The spy showed hollows of massive ships under construction. Not small, outdated crafts like before, but colossal warships, sleek, fast, and cloaked with new technology. Entire fleets waited in the darkness, invisible to scans, preparing for the day of release. Koresh's officers stared in shock. "This is impossible. How could they build all this without us knowing?" The spy's voice trembled. "Because we never looked. We thought they were broken. We thought they were running. And while we laughed, they prepared." Koresh felt a cold wave run through him. The humans had not only survived, they had been waiting. Back on Earth, inside Human Command, General Harris stood before a screen filled with glowing construction reports. His officers watched in silence as ship after ship rolled out of hidden docks. "This is the moment," Harris said quietly. "They wanted war. We gave them shadows, but now they will see what we have truly made." An officer asked, "Do we reveal everything now?" Harris shook his head. "Not yet. Fear is our greatest weapon. We will let them bleed a little longer. And when they think they have seen the worst, we will show them the truth." The humans had always been underestimated. They lacked the size of giants, the technology of ancients, or the numbers of empires. But what they had was something no one else understood. Adaptation. Every battle, every defeat, every sacrifice had been turned into knowledge. And with that knowledge, humanity had created weapons that no empire had ever seen. Cloaking systems that fooled even the sharpest scanners. AI-controlled drones that fought without fear or fatigue. Warships designed to strike, vanish, and strike again. The Vorn thought they had been hunting rats. Instead, they had been feeding wolves. Rumors began to spread even inside the Empire itself. Traders whispered of giant human fleets hiding in the dark. Soldiers spoke of ghost stations that built weapons faster than any empire could track. Some even claimed humans had found a way to make entire planets into factories of war. For the first time, the Vorn Empire felt something it had never known before: doubt. Admiral Koresh called an emergency council. His admirals argued, shouted, and cursed, but their fear was clear. "They are not just survivors," one admiral said bitterly. "They are preparing for a counterattack." Another added, "If these reports are true, they may already outnumber us in hidden fleets." Koresh slammed his claws on the table. "No, the Empire is vast. Their worlds are few. They cannot match our strength. But even as he shouted, he could not stop thinking of the spy's words. While we laughed, they prepared. Meanwhile, in a silent sector of space, Captain Elena Torres guided her fleet past a hidden human shipyard. She gazed out at the colossal war machines rising from the darkness, battle cruisers larger than anything humans had ever built before. Her crew stared in awe. Are these ours? Torres nodded slowly. Yes, this is the future of humanity, and the Vaughn have no idea what is coming. Her hand brushed against the glass. They thought we were prey, but the hunters have teeth now. Days later, another convoy of the Vaughn was destroyed. But this time, survivors escaped long enough to report something terrifying. They had seen new human ships, sleek and massive, striking with impossible speed. The report spread through the Empire like wildfire. If it was true, then humanity had more than shadows. They had an unseen war machine waiting in the dark. Back on his flagship, Koresh stood in silence. For the first time in his career, he could not find words. His empire had mocked humans as weak, fragile, and unworthy of respect. But now, as the reports piled in, he began to understand the truth. The humans had not just chosen war. They had chosen victory, and soon they would show the galaxy what it meant when Earth went to war. The galaxy trembled. The Vaughn Empire had marched into war with pride. They had called humans weak, fragile, and unworthy. But now, after months of shadows, ambushes, and endless fear, the Empire faced a new truth. The humans were no longer prey. They were the hunters, and worse, they were ready. Admiral Koresh stood on his flagship, staring at the holo map. A massive red swarm of Vaughn fleets filled the screen. Nearly everything the Empire had left had been gathered into one final strike. "This ends tonight," he said coldly. "We crush them with our full strength. No shadows, no hiding. We burn Earth itself, and their resistance dies forever." His officers roared in approval. Thousands of ships prepared to jump into human space. The largest fleet the Empire had ever assembled moved like a tide of fire across the stars. But as the fleet entered human territory, the stars lit up. From the darkness, ships appeared. Not the broken, outdated crafts the Vaughn remembered. These were something else entirely. Sleek, massive, cloaked warships, their hulls black and sharp like blades. First 100, then 200, then thousands. One by one, they emerged from the void, surrounding the Vaughn fleet in silence. Koresh's breath froze. His officers gasped in shock. This is impossible," whispered one. "They cannot have so many." But the truth was in front of them. Humanity's hidden war machine had awakened. Across every channel, the same calm voice returned, echoing through the fleet. "This is human command. Since you chose war, let us show you how it's done." The words struck harder than any weapon, and then the battle began. The humans moved with terrifying precision. Their ships appeared from cloak, struck with devastating fire, and vanished again. AI-controlled drones swarmed like endless locusts, tearing through Vaughn formations. Missiles cut through shields. Lasers burned through armor. For every human ship destroyed, 5 Vaughn ships exploded. The Empire's numbers meant nothing against speed, stealth, and ruthless coordination. On the Vaughn flagship, officers shouted in panic. "We are surrounded. They are everywhere! We cannot track them." Koresh's hands shook as he watched ship after ship burn. The humans had been patient, quiet, waiting for this moment. Now they unleashed everything. On Earth, General Harris stood in the command bunker, eyes locked on the battle feed. "This is not just defense," he said firmly. "This is the response. They thought we were broken. They thought we would surrender. But humanity never surrenders." The officers around him nodded, their faces grim but proud. For every fallen colony, for every lost life, this was the answer. The Vaughn tried to regroup, but it was too late. Human fleets pressed harder. New warships, larger than anything the Empire had faced, broke through their center lines. Koresh shouted orders, but the voices of his officers were drowned by screams of destruction. One by one, the great warships of the Empire were torn apart. And still, the same message played across the comms, calm and merciless. "You chose war. Now let us show you how it's done." Hours passed. The greatest fleet of the Vorn Empire, the pride of their power, was nothing but wreckage burning across the stars. Survivors fled in terror, their once proud voices trembling with fear. Admiral Koresh stood on the bridge, silent, staring at the endless wreckage. His empire had underestimated humanity, and the cost was everything. He remembered how he had laughed at them, how he had called them weak. And now, as his ship shook from human fire, he realized the truth. The humans had never been weak. They had only been waiting. Back on Earth, the war room erupted in grim victory. General Harris closed his eyes for a moment, then spoke the final words of the campaign. Let the galaxy remember. We did not start this war, but when it came to us, we ended it. And if any empire ever doubts humanity again, let this be their answer. The officers saluted. The humans had stood alone against a vast empire, and they had won. In the silent aftermath, messages spread across the stars. Species long afraid of the Vorn now whispered a new truth. The humans were not prey. They were a force no empire could ever break, and the last words of human command echoed forever. Since you chose war, we showed you how it's done. The end.